Hello, I'm Ben Ward. I'm a freelance video game designer. I work mostly with Size 5 games. This is the first of what will hopefully be many videos showing you some behind the scenes glimpses of the work on the latest Size 5 games project. Now, for the full story on this, probably the best thing to do is to listen to the latest episode of the Marshall Ward Fair podcast, episode 7. You can find that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and the usual stuff. But to sum up very quickly, the latest game that I worked on with Dan, Lair of the Clockwork God, came out in February 2020. He's now working on a big, new, exciting spaceship game. But in the meantime, because he's still in the early stages, there's not much opportunity for me to do design stuff on that right now, but we do enjoy designing together. So what we decided to do a little while back was make a new adventure game together. It's going to be a nice simple adventure game, and the idea is that so that Dan can spend most of his time on his main spaceship game, but I will do the visual scripting on this. He'll set up the basic framework and everything, and then he'll come in and help with any problems, but I will be doing hopefully the majority of the scripting on it, just plugging together puzzles and dialogue trees, all that simple flowchart stuff, so that Dan is free to work on his big game, but we can also have fun making this game. So what I thought I'd do is make a little practice game in Unity with the plugin and see how well I do, see how easy it is for me, and see whether this is a viable plan. So I thought I'd show you that first. So here we are in Unity. Right, so you can see the scene here. I've got a few bits and pieces here because I just did some bodge jobs for the ending. You can see that you got the hotspots, the cameras, the characters, that kind of thing, and like lots of little walk points for the character to go and stand out when he's doing stuff. And then you've got the interaction stuff here. So this is the kind of level of coding that I'll be doing, which is just flowcharts. So can I scroll on? I don't think you can scroll around in this view, but you can see it's basically ask the character something, check if he's said it before. If he has, you go to one thing. If he hasn't, you go to another thing. If the character has already seen a clue, then that opens up different stuff and different options, and then you can play animations and get to the end of the game. And I believe this is the ending here. Yes, you switch camera to a different camera, and what I've done, like I say, is just a quick bodge job to just move to a different camera that is pointed at a background that has a ending picture. So it's all very basic, but it was enough to convince me that I'm happy doing this, and I'll be able to do the basic stuff. So anyway, so I thought I'd just quickly show you it. Hopefully that's going to maximize. Here we go. Thank the fates I managed to escape that sack and avoid the orcs' detection. 'Tis pity I was forced to sign a magic contract in the process. Well, time to pay my penance and serve the customers. So this was our very basic idea that we started off with, was for the story, was that you'd show up in the game would be called escape from the Kraken's lair or something like that, and then so it'd sound all big and impressive, and then it would cut to this dingy little pub, and some orcs would walk in, and the tavern owner would say to them, "Welcome to the Kraken's lair, gentlemen." And that would be the first joke, and then they'd have this sack, they'd dump it on the floor, and you'd be in the sack, so you'd have to escape from that and escape from the orcs. But in doing so, you get forced into a magical contract, forcing you to serve behind to work at the tavern for 5 years. And our original plan was that that would give us 5 episodes that we could do, 5 little episodes. The design has moved on from there, but that's what I was working from for here. So you can see I've got him walking around. I've got a little bit of scaling, so he gets a bit bigger and smaller as he walks to and from. The reason that the graphics are so weird is that I did a paint over of the example demo that it comes with, the tutorial demo. So I just got the sprites and did a paint over. So this is why he looks so bizarre. But he's basically a fantasy version of Ben, because he's got the big nose and he's got the same colour scheme and everything. But anyway, and then I've got a goblin here. My camera's buggered. You can see the stuff over here. That's one thing I can't. I always had trouble with, was the camera would keep on shifting over, no matter how many times I fixed it and saved it. So that would be something that I'd probably have to go to Dan to and ask him, why the hell does this keep happening? But or I just give him my stuff and go, here's a list of the stuff for you to fix. Here's my finished product, here's all the stuff wrong with it, good luck. But we'll see how it goes. So anyway, so you can try and use the pillar, you can try and talk to the pillar. Hi pillar. Oh, pillock, that's a pillock joke. So if we go and look at the goblin, Shrek chewing a wasp, that's how Dan used to describe himself. I should get through this relatively quickly, but I've got the talks here. I've got the and so this will only get played once, but he says he can't think on an empty stomach, so we need to get him this thistle. Let's try and pick that up. So as you can see, all the animations are a little wonky and everything, but this is like, oh good, it is working. Okay. So I've got the knife, and now I've got my inventory working. Again, if you've played an adventure game, this is all very basic stuff, but it's, I think it's interesting to see like what a kind of wonky version of it looks like when I haven't smoothed out all the edges and everything, and so it's all kind of cut, kind of bodged together. So if I give the thistle to the goblin, that he loves thistles, obviously, and then hopefully he will help me escape the contract. You don't say the whole spiel again because of my amazing coding. As it happens, this tavern is the meeting place for the coven of pro bono magic lawyers. Simply tell me the password and I will dissolve your contract. And I've got some fake passwords there and some meta dialogue. And I chose this fantasy font, but it's pretty bloody ugly, so I should imagine they will change that anyway. So, as a good adventurer, look at everything. This is me practicing camera moves. So you switch to a different camera, you tell it to, the camera is just set up here, and what it's doing is moving from this camera to that camera and then back, rather than, you don't have physical cameras moving about. You just switch from one to the other. But anyway, so he's seen the password now. So now I can give him this password. Dan is BMX. That is a cool, trendy saying that all the young people are saying these days. Dan is BMX. I'd encourage everyone to say it all the time and write it in every comment section. Anyway, so I did a little animation there with the magic, and then I just, instead of moving the camera slowly, I just cut to this camera which is pointed at, and again the camera's buggered, I don't know why, but I cut to a camera pointing at a big background that I did, and that is that. So if I come out here, you can see there's the background thing, and I switch to this camera. The rest of this video is the recordings of a couple of our design meetings that we had remotely. It's just the raw footage from them. I've smashed them together. The podcast has a nicer edited version of it, but if you want the feeling of just sitting in a pub with us two listening to us try to come up with an idea for an hour, then this is the thing to watch. It's my first time making one of these, so there are lots of technical issues. I didn't have the full paid version of Bandicam, so I only had like 10-minute videos to plug together, and I forgot to put Discord into the right view at some points and all this kind of thing. So it's a bit of a mess, so I am sorry about that, but you do get the general idea, and hopefully some of you will find it interesting to just see how a typical design meeting goes, with the occasional eureka moment and a lot of head scratching and hair pulling and back and forth. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching. Right. So this
in case this does get used, do you want to do a handy sum up of the story so far, of what we've decided?
Yes, Dan. Bloody hell, you put me in charge of planning it and everything, and then you get all bossy.
Have you done plans?
Yes, I was told to.
Right. Cool. I'm going to sit back here and relax and listen.
Okay, so welcome to Martial Warfare Episode 7. That's the title of our podcast, if you'd forgotten, Dan. Martial Warfare.
Was part of your planning to count how many we've done so far?
Yes, that's where most of the effort went.
Okay, good.
It took a while. So you, and also as well, I will say this is not all my ideas or anything. This is me summing up conversations we've had together. So a lot of this is Dan's ideas already. So a lot of this isn't going to be new for you, Dan. It's just kind of putting everything together. But okay, so you were talking about having, because instead of starting in the tavern, you were talking about starting it with the hero failing his big quest. So. And making it playable. So I really like that. So I think rather than having a lavish cutscene, you'd have like a playable prologue and make that the high production, impressive bit of the whole game. So like have lots of one-off animations, etc. So you're at the end of your quest to save the world. You reach a cave entrance at the top of a mountain. In the background, you can see the villain, the big cosmic. What are those things called from Marvel? Celestials. Big celestial scale villain, like towering above the landscape, and kind of maybe he's gaining physical form. He's like maybe kind of doing battle with people in the background, whatever. You go in the cave. You battle some stuff, like you kill a dragon or whatever. You do some stuff. It's nice and easy. You're young and strong and agile, and you've got an inventory full of cool stuff like the gem of whatever and the magic sword of blah blah, and everything's really easy and action packed, and you just like make your way through these last challenges, and you get to the very final task. And I think that you should fail this because of your arrogance, not just tripping over or something. It should be like the hero's failing, and like perhaps it's like a Fate of Atlantis style stone dial puzzle, which requires knowledge of Elvish or whatever, like a foreign language. So you have no idea how to correctly do it, how to correctly insert a gem or whatever, because you can't read the instructions because you were so arrogant that you came alone. And then later on, if we wanted, depending on the scope of the game, depending on how the game comes out, we can maybe get into how you were brought up to believe heroes go on quests alone, your father was a hero, etc. So it's maybe kind of playing with toxic masculinity and white privilege metaphors or whatever, kind of low key. Like a player paying attention might notice that when you're in the game proper, when everyone hates him, like common folk will speak to him in Elvish, or they'll use a particular phrase that was the phrase that he didn't manage to translate or whatever, just like sneaky little digs to him. And it's something that like this stone dial puzzle is something that a 4-year-old elf child could have managed, but he couldn't, just because he was so arrogant that he went on his own. Like if we wanted to be really harsh, we could have an actual elf child in the corner of the tavern playing with a toy that very much resembles the stone dial puzzle and solving it dead easily, or something like that. So we could have a character arc where he learns to get help from others, and perhaps you could say the wizard is the wizard that we get to help him with a portal or whatever is Elvish, or whatever that language is, whatever we decide on. But I was also wondering, maybe because we're doing a rug pull ending, maybe he shouldn't get a redemption arc at all, but that's a possibility. Anyway, so we're in the prologue. You fail that ritual. The cave starts to crumble. You run back through the cave and to the exit, and you see the villain winning. He gains form. He defeats the his enemies. Starts scouring the place or whatever. And you talked about like a match cut, and I was thinking like maybe like you fall to your knees with your back to the camera, and then it match cuts to you on your knees scrubbing the tavern toilet or whatever. And you're now older, you're pot-bellied, you're balding, that kind of stuff. And one thing that you mentioned, Dan, was a Shaun of the Dead type to-do list, like a save, go to Liz's, get to the pub, save the world, or whatever it was. And I was thinking it would be quite cool to have one of those, but presented as presented as a mechanic, like a game playing tool, like a typical objectives list, but it can actually function as a narrative device. So in the prologue, it'll have all the epic stuff you've done already crossed off with the last few steps still on there, so that kind of works as exposition, and it also does help the player know where they're doing. But then when you cut to current day, then the task will have like mundane, the list will have mundane tasks on it, like clean the toilet, recycle the drip tray dregs, fix the wobbly table, stuff like that. And then when you get your glimmer of hope, which we talked about, like there's the inciting incident that kind of makes you think, oh, maybe I can escape. You can then change that list again to the thing you were talking about, Dan, which is like escape tavern, save world, whatever. Kind of have 3 or 4 things on there. And we could also have a gag where maybe after you do that, you go, great, escape tavern, save the world, and then one of your managers yells at you and says, why haven't you cleaned those toilets yet? And you go like, oh, and add that back onto your list. So, and we could do that as like, it could be like a subtle thing that's in your inventory or whatever, and the player will only notice this stuff if they look at it. Or you could kind of do a big kind of cinematic thing of bringing it up on the screen and writing it in or whatever. We could decide what we wanted to do there. And we could even we could do something really silly where in the prologue it's like a proper scroll, but in present day you're just scrawling on your hand or a piece of loo paper or something. Okay, so general ideas. Basically you want to escape the tavern. There are multiple obstacles to you doing that. One is you've got a magical kind of bind on you, like a binding spell that doesn't allow you to pass through the walls of the tavern. Another one is you have actual physical shackles on, and third one is that you need to distract. So you need to distract them. So I was thinking like, so the possibility of a portal is what galvanizes you. That kind of, you're like, right, okay, that might solve the magical binding spell like about passing through walls, because I won't technically be passing through any walls of the tavern. So that solves that. So maybe I can solve the other stuff as well. So you convince the wizard or whoever to cast it, but in order to make sure the slime beasts don't notice, or because the wizard is drunk when he does it or whatever, it gets cast somewhere that you can't immediately see. That you can't immediately access. But you can see it, and you can hear it, and you can smell it and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, freedom is just there. And then the gag at the end is that it turns out that through the portal is just a painting of a lovely pastoral landscape. And I was thinking, next to the painting there's maybe a window with a bird on the tree branch, which is what you were hearing, and there's a bag of sea salt next to it, and that's why you've been smelling the ocean, or something stupid like that. So you have a puzzle or a puzzle chain to break the shackles. Maybe you get help from a strong NPC. You need to do the portal, and a big thing could be distracting the slime beasts. So you can say there's like 3 or 4 slime beasts, whatever we decide, and the way you've got to distract them by making them busier. So what you have to do is open up the other rooms in the tavern, or just make interesting things happen in those rooms so you attract customers there. So one way or another, you get the slight you'd like each. So you've got like four. I've got 4 sign beasts. I've got 4 rooms. I need to kind of get each one of those into a room. So like you start this again, not this, but you start a pub quiz, but it's like a really rowdy one where you die if you get a question wrong or whatever. You start a brawl in another room. You get more customers to come into the tavern by lowering the prices and turning lamps on, like the outside lamps and stuff like that. You could trap a pixie in a jar and just hang it off the side of the tavern or whatever. Find some gremlins or whatever that have been imprisoned in the basement because the slime beasts are evil. So you free them and they run havoc around the place. Like you free them into this room, and so they're like, so a slime beast has to run in and like try and get them off the ceiling or whatever. And that kind of works as you being a hero as well, because you're kind of freeing some prisoners. And yeah, so hopefully those rooms will help give the game structure, because I think like if we're aiming for 2 to 4 hours, we need some structure in it, especially because it's set in a single location, and hopefully it'll make the location feel a bit more varied and interesting. So that was basically it. The only other thing I had was discussion points, which I'll just run through quickly. Do we want voice acting? What do we want the visual style to be? I think it needs to be something unusual and stand out. I think it also needs to be like full of detail if we can, like, because we're going to be in one building the whole time. We need to come up with something, an interesting idea for the slime beasts, what they look like, what the powers are, what the personalities are. Come up with an idea for the mega villain, even though we won't be meeting him in this probably. Maybe come up with a backstory, and particularly a personality for the hero. Do some world building, and like I think specifically focus on what the differences are in the world before and after the fall when the villain wins. You mentioned as well, which I think is a good idea, having a minor bully to over the course of the game will get overcome or punished, and that's basically it. And then just come up with lots of fun, like just pack it full of fun NPCs and background detail. And I think an interesting thing to focus on would be a sense of like pre and post fall history, so you can see what a room in the tavern used to be, and then you can see what it is now, and like you can you find out what an NPC used to do in their daily life, and now what their life is like after the fall, and that kind of stuff. And that is everything.
This being pure fantasy and no modern bullshit. So the example we always had was like, in games like this you always get like a coffee shop called Grarbucks or something. Like, it's run by orcs, and instead of a mermaid on the logo it's got an orc or something. Or people like making jokes about Amazon deliveries or something, you know what I mean? Yeah. And we hate that.
Yeah.
It's always fucking dreadful.
Yeah.
As a joke. So we're not doing anything that alludes to modern day stuff.
Yeah.
I like all that. My gut feeling is we need to nail this opening puzzle and worry about everything else. Mm-hmm. Obviously, further down the line. I think if we get an amazing opener, everything else will bleed from it.
Are you? Do you mean like you? Do you still like the idea of the playable prologue?
Yeah,
but
I really like that, and I think.
But then, you want an amazing opening tavern puzzle, is what you're referring to.
Well, both. We want amazing puzzles like throughout, obviously, but
yeah.
And my gut feeling is that because it's like a nice self-contained little bit, that opening prologue puzzle is a good thing to sort of get designed. Mm-hmm. I think it will inform how the rest of the game sort of shapes up and how the rest of the stuff all hangs together. So, like, from sorting out that opening puzzle, we'll very quickly decide whether or not we do want. I can immediately tell you we're not doing the worm tongue thing because I like some of the stuff you're talking about then, in that intro, and that does not going to lend itself to that kind of style of thing. You know, maybe we do like, because we always had that idea of adding and taking away. We talked about before Lair the Clockwork God was a thing, when we were making Once More with Feelings and various other Dan and Ben prototypes. There was always this idea of Ben getting roped into a Telltale style, like amalgam corporate adventure game stuff, and they took away all his inventory and look at and talk to and stuff, and replaced everything with just use. And he was like, really, the joke was he was going to be really frustrated about how the restrictions on that. But there is something to be said for like maybe doing a thing where you lose all your inventory, like you lose all your inventory rights, right, and your ability to, because you're what's the name of the guy in Game of Thrones who's like fucking Jack the Lad, and then the baddie breaks him down and he chops his dick off and stuff like that, and he's then like really meek and pathetic and useless and horrible. And so like there's an argument to be said for like, you start off with your full scum inventory stuff, and then when you go to the tavern, you're suddenly like, you've not got access to any of that stuff because you haven't got pockets, because you're just some worthless little shit. So you know, and over the course of maybe the game or whatever, you earn back your back. Anyway,
I love that. Yeah,
that's by the by. My gut reaction, so the stuff that I really like out of so that intro where like the baddies in the background and gaining power, and you know, obviously gaining power, that looks really cool. It made me think a lot of Last Crusade, you know, the penitent man stuff, right? So he gets into the dusty cave and there's like 3 trials to, you know, there's some sort of sword at the end, that will destroy the evil, and you have to overcome 3 trials. And the 3 trials, the first 2 trials are, you know, stuff that you can handle, like tutorial stuff, right? So the first one is very simple, like push this button and the spikes retract or whatever, you can get through. And then, I mean, not that because that's boring, but like, and then the second one is use your inventory in some interesting way to get through. And then the third one is like what you were saying about the stone tablets and like the elvish writing and all that sort of stuff, the hubris kind of stuff, made me think a lot of the dig, which I should play again. But like I really like the idea of you do these 2 puzzles and they are like dirt fucking simple.
You're right.
Right? Yeah. And then the third one is this massively overblown, you know, like some sort of cross between the dig and you know, that end bit of Full Throttle with all the buttons on the panel, like, you know, where he's on the plane and there's just a bit...
you've got like 5 slightly differently coloured crystals and like like 20 holes to put them in, and there's
and you've got to work out what the correct place is, and we obviously rig it so whatever you do you lose. But like I really like the idea of like that because the dig was always like that, wasn't it? It was just like solving alien puzzles, and it was just really unfair. I like that idea. The other thing, like, because what did I write that down? Okay, so the only other thing is that like I'm very aware that that's not very funny necessarily. It's like it immediately makes me think this is a very very sort of po-faced atmosphere, right? There's no jollity to any of this. Like, I wonder if, like, this is immediately going back to Dan and Ben level of stuff, but like you're the hero and you're being, you know, you're followed on your trails by these goblins that are carrying all your inventory or whatever, and the puzzle solution is to throw them onto the spikes to bypass, right? They're worthless and they're useless. You're the big brave hero. Something that's like immediately got like a little bit more. I want that reaction from the player where they're like, I can't believe I'm having to do this. This is really harsh, but it's harsh. It's harsh in that sort of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia way, where it's funny, right? Where it's like just this complete like blasé attitude that I can't believe the character I'm playing is this crass, or not crass, that's not the right word, but there's this deeply unpleasant sort of a person that they disregard someone else's life so callously. Callous is probably the word I was looking for. That
when I was writing my notes, I was thinking like the one thing we want to make sure that we don't accidentally do exactly the same thing as is what's his name from Futurama? You know, like the hey, hello, Kif. Well then,
Zach
why
Bragan.
don't you go and do that, Kif? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But I think
You're right.
as long as we're conscious of not, you know,
Of him.
then yeah.
I mean, it's
that's
very,
possible.
it's immediately very like Ben from Clockwork God, isn't it? Like this sort of I'm an adventure game character, I can do what I like sort of attitude. Is maybe should the main characters be Ben with like a little beard? It's like canonically, no, let's not do Dan and Ben again. Let me do Dan and Ben again. It's not.
Did you notice how in the demo, my practice demo that I made, he was basically Fantasy Ben?
No, I didn't.
He had the
notice
same
that.
colour scheme and like the same colour hair and a big nose and everything.
Oh fuck! Of course he did. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. I hadn't clocked that at all. I noticed that his legs were very short, or something like his proportions were like slightly weird, but I couldn't quite work out why.
I think it's because I was just doing a paint over of the example sprite. But
Yeah.
did you notice that the Goblin was Dan?
No, I'm going to have to go and replay this now, aren't I? You bastard! This is right. I've changed my mind. I'm making this game. Your master plan has worked. I'll do it all. Shit. Okay, good. Well, I've written the fall down because I really like the fall stuff, but I can't remember why I was going to talk about it. So there you go. That's really nice. But yeah, this opening puzzle. Let's stick with that because it's
Yeah. Okay.
it's important.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So I think we both like the idea that, you know, you feel powerful and it's easy and you're just like fucking cutting a, you know, you're kind of making your way through very easily, and yeah, but do we want to kind of, but what do we want to do to make it funny, like to kind of to let the player know that this is a comedy game, basically.
Not this, but like, what if there's like some like big kindly dragon? The first, I think once we work out what the funny thing is that the player does.
Well, yeah. So setting that stuff. I think what I like is the stuff you're talking about of him being callous, of like everything being really fucking brutal. Like it's just like use sword on dragon, and then you just get like this incredibly harsh, you know, like slices the head off and like blood's going everywhere, and like the, you know, like all the, like, not to get too like very kind of like Conan the Barbarian, like really kind of like, just goes halfway through the dragon's body, and the dragon just kind of goes like bleh, and you know, like twain.
Can I make a suggestion? Mm-hmm. Instead of like this being like a Lord of the Rings thing, or like this can be as much of a Lord of the Rings thing as you like, but when you're talking to me about it, if you talk about it in like, not Conan the Barbarian, because I didn't like Conan the Barbarian, but if you talk to it in like Red Sonja terms, right?
Okay. I don't know how I'm gonna.
If you relate everything, because I used to love Red Sonja, I must have watched that film like 3 times when I was a kid.
Okay.
I will be a lot more.
Okay, I don't know
So
how
I can't remember. I should
gonna-
watch Red Sonja. Make a note here to rewatch Red Sonja because
I don't know how I'm going to intuit which fantasy films you want me to.
just Red Sonja. Everything else, I'll go boring.
I hate to tell you this.
Red Sonja.
I haven't seen Red Sonja.
What? You should imagine Lord of the Rings, but better.
Ooh.
Red Sonja.
Okay.
You know, Lord of the Rings is a bit like wordy.
Yeah.
Red Sonja. All I remember is that the man they get like it's like a big, like a door that's like a stone wheel.
Arch. Oh, okay. Right. Oh, yeah.
No, it's like a wheel that rolls to one side.
Yeah, one of those.
And I remember
doors, yeah.
someone holding it and it closing on them and they get crushed. And at the time, I remember thinking that was the most horrifying piece of cinema I've ever seen in my entire life. Red Sonja.
Okay, so what I'm thinking, Dan, is
that's our homework.
What?
It's our homework is to watch Red Sonja before next time.
What I'm thinking, Dan, is this opening is going to be a lot like Red Sonja.
Oh yeah, what a great idea! With like rotating stone doors and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually really good. Well, that's a wrap for today then. Let's just make Red Sonja the video game and everyone's happy. Yeah, no, I think once we work out what I like the slicing blood really over the top with gore. I think is going to be funny. It's the thing we never really did with the Dan and Ben stuff, but I can sort of really see that like. Working well in this, I think that's like the immediate like shock value that I think I was after. We always had this conversation about way back when, which I should have put in. We sort of did, but it changed a lot. But like, do you remember the original plan for Lair of the Clockwork God with Dan's skills? Was that the joke? There was going to be a joke where when you first meet a Goomba character, like a thing for Dan to jump on, and the idea that Dan was going to jump on it, like the only thing the player could do is jump on it. And Dan was going to jump on it and it was going to go splat in like a really over the top, horrible, gory fashion. And I was going to have this really nice animation of Dan like skidding on entrails and falling over in it and getting up and being sick and like because it was just like this really like it's taking that idea of like jumping on a trope of like jumping on a character to kill them, but actually what would happen if you jumped on a small creature would be really quite devastatingly unpleasant.
Yeah.
And I think this sort of speaks to that same sort of sense of humor of that like so you start, you use the sword on the dragon. And you can almost open on that scene, right? Of having like one half of the screen taken up by this ginormous dragon and the player's just there on the other side with a sword in hand, right? You can open on that. It's immediately arresting. And the only thing you can do within reason, because we'll talk about this, but because I think it would be good to have some look at and some sort of ability to talk to the dragon. I think would be fine. I think it would work well, but we'll talk about that. But then you use the sword on the dragon. Not a sword. Is there something more interesting than a sword? Like use the gem on the dragon or whatever. Like some sort of what sort of fantasy bullshit do they do? Scrolls, magic. Well, whatever.
Just like a battle axe or something, like a bit more brutal.
Yeah, like with glowing blue edges, so it's a magic one, like a.
Yeah, or maybe you could do something like it's like a whip or something. So you think you're going to tame it like a lion, and you just like whip it around its neck and pull it, and its head comes off or something like that.
Yeah, that's good. I can see Tom Waterhouse relishing these animations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works well. Like,
Okay.
It still feels a little vanilla to me.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like.
So let's say we have 3 puzzles in this section, right? So I think one of them we can give to that dragon thing. It's like a nice, easy, it's a tutorial. You just use a thing on him, and then the joke is that it's like incredibly brutal. It's like the joke with using the Bible on the priest, but more so.
Yeah.
And then, do we want the third one to be the one that you fuck up, or is that like is that the fourth one? We've got 2 actual things to do.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I think the dig room should be like your reward for getting the 3. Okay. Right, so you do 3, and then that accesses you to that thing. And we could do like a pick up not this, but like picking up one of the dragon's scales, which is obviously could be used as a shield or something. In the next bit of the puzzle, right? So you're tutorializing. So maybe the dragon's the second one. I think the first one should be something that just teaches you like the basics of your interface, which I'm assuming is going to be a Sam & Max right click to scroll through, right? Or people not like that, or a full throttle. Maybe people didn't like that, though, did they? In Time Gentleman, Please, or did people? That was always my favourite, but like maybe in like more of a full throttle sort of thing where. You can actually just see your list of verbs. Maybe people prefer that. I think people got. I seem to remember people getting quite frustrated at like, right clicking through shit constantly.
Yeah.
Anyways, but something that just basically does your the first one should probably just be like push Goblin onto spikes so that you can get past.
Mm-hmm.
Again, immediately harsh and unfair. It speaks to his callousness. I think that's quite. This is quite cool. So. That one, and then the dragon head comes off. You walk past the dragon, you can grab a scale on the way past, which you can use as a shield. I don't know, not this, but like reflector, like a Staff of Ra style laser beam.
Of course. Yeah, I was thinking maybe so. Like maybe. You show up like in the first room or whatever. I do still like my idea of establishing the baddie, at like to begin with, but whatever. But maybe you have gone there with like a little, it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you've got your little goblin, what's his name, Satipo, Alfred Molina guy who's carrying your shit for you, and the first room teaches you like the puzzler, like teaches you talk to your goblin friend, tell him to go and hold this. There's there's some kind of trap, and you say, right, go and stand there on that pressure pad, or go and hold that rope or whatever, and then and it seems like you're going to co-op together to get through the room, and in fact you just use his body as like counterweight, you basically get him killed so you can get through the room or something.
Yeah, I like that. That works. That's nice. Yes, and so like, okay, we have to wrap this up because it's tea time. But I think like what you were saying about the celestial bloke, we can leave him in the background. I think that works really well. Like. Still that opening shot of dragon on one side, you quite little on the other side, and then just like in the background all fucking hell breaking loose. Of like you can still see him, and you still see him like standing there all triumphant, like drawing in power towards himself. You can tell that like there's stick some fucking horns on him or whatever, so that you can tell that whatever's going on in the background there is not good. Shake the cave and like rocks falling down and all that sort of stuff. It gives it this sense of impetus, I guess. And then, actually, no. Then that starts with the dragon, then, doesn't it? Maybe the dragon can still be there, but you just implement that first puzzle first. Can't get to the dragon to use your whip until you've used the goblin to. You sacrifice the goblin to get past the. Man will pass puzzle.
Are you thinking of all this as like one screen, or like what? How are you?
I think that's one screen, and then when you get past the dragon, that's another screen, and then for the third puzzle, and then the dig room will be a fourth room.
Okay, yeah. So maybe right. So first room it's like the entrance to the cave, and that's where you've got the penitent man will pass complicated puzzle that you need to kill the goblin to get through, and in the background you've got the celestial. You've got Mega Villain, and so you arrive at the mountaintop, you climb up the mountaintop or whatever. You sacrifice, like you've got the baddie behind you in the background. You sacrifice the goblin to get past the death trap. You go in, so that gets you into the cave. And then the second room is dragon, and and like maybe we could say, like, maybe you have a grappling hook or something, and that's what you use to climb up the mountain. That's also what you use on the dragon, or I don't know, whatever's more interesting and funny. But okay, so you kill the dragon in like an unexpectedly brutal way, and then third puzzle, and then the dig room where you fuck it up because you don't understand what the fuck's going on.
Can you see that? That was my thinking. So like room 1, you can see the dragon, right, taking up quite a large portion of the screen, and then you're down here and you solve this first puzzle down here, and you can see all this shit going on in the background, and then this second room is where you'd get like your do your third puzzle, and then that accesses you to the dig room right at the end. So you can do something a bit more involved in that room, but like that room, which I would call the Gore Room, because you brutally murder a goblin and then pull a dragon's head off. I just think that's a really strong opening scene. Rather than like opening on a cave entrance with a trap in it, with a baddie in the background. Right. Opening with a dragon, a baddie in the background, and a trap, and all the rest of it. I think that works much stronger.
Yeah, cool. Okay. I mean, people have got like we've got a lot of screen space to work with these days, right? So we can put stuff in there. And then it's just
all right.
like,
I think that's nice. I like it. I think we call that a day there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Go and have a ruminate on all that nonsense.
Yes.
And see if we can work away making it funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Because it's good. I mean, basically, the joke is that there's lots of blood and isn't that horrible, which I don't necessarily think is particularly funny. I would, my gut feeling would be to change the dragon to something that's immediately hilarious as well. I mean, I don't know what, but like something that's not a dragon or dragon-esque, but a racist dragon or whatever.
I mean, I'm negotiable on it, but like I'm flexible on it, but like I'm kind of thinking like the juxtaposition between the opening and you cleaning toilets in the tavern is in itself
okay.
So, but
okay, I'll have a think. Have a think about what that first puzzle is as well, with a goblin, where you sacrifice a goblin in an interesting way, and then we'll
yeah.
Sorry, what I missed you there.
Interesting and surprising, yeah.
Interesting and surprising way, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and then we'll have a design meeting in like a week or two. So let's wrap up let's give this a podcast wrap up.
Do you want to sing a theme tune?
You always ask me that, and I always say yes because I'm an amazing freestyle.
Maybe
rapper.
Just do like a rap or a country and western style.
Yeah. Let's see. It's Marshall Ward Fair. That's it. No.
Is that a lot?
For listeners and viewers, this is a week later from an original brainstorming session. Yeah, so I was thinking. You have what?
Sorry, I have specifically worn the same clothes and not shaved the same amount.
Yeah.
So that you can just cut this in. And it will look exactly the same. I'm pretty confident.
The problem is,
but
I've had a haircut and I'm growing my beard out for my sister's wedding, so it might just look like the design session has gone on for so long that my hair's fallen out. Anyway,
all right. Anyway,
so I didn't have many thoughts. Basically, my thoughts were, I think we should keep our minds open to having the first screen be just the dragon and not the mechanism puzzle, but whatever. I was also thinking like we could potentially move the sacrifice the goblin thing to the dragon. But apart from that, the only thoughts I had really were when you pull, you could have like the dragon could have like a big crest as part of its head, and so you can like when you try and use your sword against it, it will just like bash it will defend itself with its crest, and so when you do take its head off, you can use that as a shield. So it's like a gross kind of gory kind of thing. The only thought I had for the trap mechanism thing was like a very basic idea. It's basically that puzzle from Full Throttle where you have to put a padlock on a chain to keep a gate open. But like, so you've got like a nasty gate. So you have to pull a chain up like a bunch to get it to open. But if you let go of the chain and try and get through, you can't get through. So what you have to do is pull the chain up, ask the Goblin to come and help you hold it, and then use chain with Goblin and it like wrap it around his neck. And so he gets, and then you let go, he gets pulled into the mechanism and just jams the mechanism. So it's like just his little goblin body just like twitching in the mechanism so you can get through the gate. And those were my only thoughts, Dan.
Okay, I like that. I think that will work. That might be spliceable quite well into what I was going to say. So, I had a couple of thoughts, which was first of all, I was suddenly aware that this is like a tutorial section, and we still need to tutorialize like how point and clicks work, even if it's very quick and brief. So my sort of solution sort of takes that on board, trying to keep it manageable. The other thing I realised was that it works a lot better if I don't think we talked about this. We talked about like the room at the end, the big dig puzzle at the end, having like a load of runes that you can't translate.
Yeah.
If that was, we're calling this guy who's helping you at the start a goblin, but like whatever he is.
Yeah.
If the runes were in goblin tongue.
Yeah.
Then that makes the killing of the goblin all the more like hubris. It's your own fault. It's your own downfall. That ties together really nicely.
Yeah.
So my feeling was that the first puzzle is basically you get to that first room. Let's say there's no dragon in that first room, and there's like a load of runes, like simple runes, and like a plinth. And all you have to do is like look at the runes, and he says like, I don't understand a word of what that says. It's all gobbledygook. Mm-hmm. At which point the goblin goes, "Oh, I can help you with that because I'm a goblin and I speak goblin runes." At which point that opens up gobbledygook. At which point you can then talk to him, and he'll say, "Oh, it says that in order to open the gate, the magic gate or whatever, it requires a sacrifice." So then you talk to him and you get him to stand on the plinth using your wily words. It's a little dialogue puzzle. You get him to stand on the plinth, and he dies in this. He like erupts in this utterly horrific way and drops his whip in the process. And then you can pick up the whip, which gives you an inventory item, and then we're tutorializing inventory items. And then you get to the dragon and use the whip on the dragon, pull the head off, go through the dragon, and then you're into your dig thing. And then when you get to the dig bit, you've got the runes, which are obviously like the same stuff as the goblin thing. And you're like, well, shit, now I can't. I've lost my translator because I callously erupted him in a fleshy, bloody, horrible way. And it just sort of ties all these different bits together quite nicely by having the beginning and the end both be goblin runes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, it does. Does that kill the mechanism thing then? No, it doesn't. It was just it's a different kind of mechanism, isn't it? It's just like a sacrifice mechanism. Okay.
I mean, yeah, my feeling was when you were telling me about I like the getting him caught up in some sort of horrible clockwork mechanism works a lot better than some random sacrifice magic shit going on. It's a lot more grisly and horrible. I suspect we can make it work. He says like, the runes say in order to open this gate you have to pull the chains in this certain way, at which point you say go and pull them in the way that the runes say then, and then he pulls the chains. He has to get it wrong there, wouldn't he? That doesn't work because he would read the runes and go,
yeah.
I like the idea that he was just like, his attitude to being sacrificed is one of just absolute servitude. Like the world is ending anyway, right? If I don't do this, the world is so he's like short round or something.
Yeah.
Right. He's been tagging along on your adventures for some time. He's like he's not just some guy you've picked up on the way up the mountain. He's your trusty companion. But everyone knows that the entire fate of the entire world is relying on you destroying the big beast. So he's happy to lay down his life to further the cause. So it makes it a bit more like utterly fucking horrific when he dies horribly and then you need him in the next room.
Yeah, it kind of makes you less callous though, doesn't it? If he's willing to make the sacrifice, it's kind of like, well, you know,
yeah, true.
That's morally not so.
Yeah, all right, okay. Yeah, you're right. That's worse. But I think that's nice. And then the other thought I had was that we were talking about this 3-room thing and having something after the dragon, but I wonder if that's killing it. Making it too long. I think like once you've killed the dragon and you've made it past the dragon, you should be straight into the dig room, because I think just having another stumbling block there just kills the flow of it quite a lot.
Yeah, and we've basically done our.
It's like
we've made our point, haven't we?
It's 3 puzzles, but like one of them you just can't do and that's the point.
Yeah,
isn't it? Right. So it's like classic adventure game 3 puzzles, but you've painted yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
So you can't do the 3rd one.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. It's a nice opener. It's got lots of horror in it. I'll have a think about how to get the gate opening mechanism stuff working, because I think that's better than magic did it. You know, I'm not. And also, it's very. What's that shitty point and click? Lair of the Clockwork God has got an altar sacrifice section in it already, hasn't it? And I felt like it was a little bit similar.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's funny. Like maybe we do. Maybe it is Dan and Ben in medieval times. Just like Dan immediately gets, yes, sir, happy to help, sir. Like, you know, and then immediately dies. And then from that point on, big muscly Ben, the hero.
Yeah. I was thinking actually that it's. Like the mechanism thing is very much like pushing Tarquin into the spikes as well.
Yeah. Oh shit! Have we done all adventure game puzzles? I think we've completed adventure games design, and now we're just repeating ourselves over and over. Oh shit! Okay.
I kind of like that. That's like, you know, that's our thing. We're using it in a different way, but you know, it's kind of thematically we're kind of playing with the same stuff. You know, that's okay. Creators do that.
We do need to make absolute sure. I know I was joking about like bringing Dan and Ben back, but we need to absolutely make sure that like we don't have the main character look like Ben and call him Benius or something. Yeah. And like, we need to make sure. I'm almost tempted to just like, I know it's funny having it as like a straight white man protagonist, but I'm tempted to suggest just to make it absolutely fucking clear it's not Dan and Ben. We just need to. This is not the 4th game in the Dan and Ben series. Just because you don't play as a straight white man in the. We should put them in the background, but like,
yeah,
fucking things up.
Just have them show up in a time rip outside the window for a moment.
Yeah, like dressed in appropriate attire, like appropriate fantasy attire. Just as you're about to solve a puzzle, Ben comes in and nicks what you've got and walks out again. Oh, that's what I need. Perfect. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'll have a think about grisly mechanisms, because I think that is funnier. Having it, I can picture him like holding onto this chain and like going up with it and like getting caught in it. And then disappearing off into the roof, and then like bits dripping down. You know, it's a bit more. It's fucking hideous, but it's a bit more interesting than a blue flash and flame, and then he dies. All right, cool, good. Well, now we've got an ending. That's nice. That's worked out well.
So, are we still thinking mechanism then dragon? then Dig Room.
Yeah, I think that works better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you can pick up the whip off him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it tutorializes the inventory stuff as well. I was also thinking, this is like some way off, but I was also, because we always talk about whether to do, we were talking about whether to do like Scum style or Sam and Max Hit the Road style or Full Throttle interface. And I was just wondering if it wouldn't take much on our part to innovate that a little bit. I don't know how, but just it appeals to me to have a slightly more interesting interface than ripping off what LucasArts did like 30 years ago.
Sure.
I was wondering if there's something, you know, that gives it a bit of indie sheen. That functionally the game is identical. You still got all that stuff, but the UI is a little bit more, a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Maybe we should think about what interface would, like, not do it for the sake of it, but think about what interface would actually work well with the game. Like, what, you know, what new interface or what new version of what interface innovation would actually reflect the game we're making and help the feel of it and the puzzles of it and stuff, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just something to keep in the back of mind when you're thinking stuff through, that not to necessarily default to the Time Gentleman Please style.
Yeah.
To
cool.
Okay.
Else. So what we need to think about is maybe come up with more interesting versions of that mechanism. Maybe interface stuff. And I guess also, well, we've kind of got the dig puzzle, but maybe we can think about that as well. But just keep on thinking on the opening, basically, right, until the next design meeting.
Yeah. And I think the main thing about it is it's not currently funny, and I think all of this stuff, it works as like as a fantasy game. Mm-hmm. I get it and I like it, but I would, immediately remove the dragon and replace it with a giant parrot if it was funnier. Immediately, what's funny? What's a goblin but funny? What's a lift mechanism but funny? What's rooms but funny? Right? That's not.
Yeah.
It all just feels quite by the numbers. There's nothing here that's made me laugh yet, and I think a couple of drinks and a chat about how to make it riotously hilarious right from the get-go is a good call. But that's a conversation for another day. I think that requires us to meet in person maybe, or sit in a pub for a couple of hours and really go to town on it. Because I think that's the sort of solution that comes after we bounce things back and forth for an hour, and take a perfectly pleasant design and fuck it up in interesting ways. Yeah,
I mean, I know this is like, because we did mention this last time, but I can't I'll just say exactly what I said before, which is basically that I'm flexible and open to that stuff. But at the same time, I do kind of feel like there's something to be said about the juxtaposition of opening with like quite a straight, like no silly business, opening for 2 to 5 minutes, and the comedy is in how callous you're being and unexpected results from your whip, like against the dragon and stuff like that, and then the big comedy starts when you get into the game proper, and the juxtaposition of those is a joke unto itself. But it might be one of those things where I'm saying like, no, it's really good that we make it boring. That's actually the funny thing, and then we come up with something amazingly funny, and we go, no, okay, no.
Yeah,
but we'll see. Yeah, but
we've definitely been there.
I think there's something to be, to be said for the juxtaposition there, and that being a big part of the joke.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if a big bum monster comes out the cave or something, it's like, I don't know. I think that
Monsters, amazing.
I think that almost loses something. I think it's almost better that the whole point is you were a hero in a classic fantasy story, and everything was going as you'd expect it to, and he was about to win, and then he boxes it up, and then everything goes weird and silly. But again, like I say, I'm open to other directions.
Okay, cool. All right, lovely stuff. Well, we'll talk next week then, shall we?
Yeah. Okay. What do you want to do
next week or a week after? Maybe a week after. Makes more sense.
Yeah, if we do week after, we might have a bit to talk about in the intro section before we get.
You're
to
right.
design.
We might do. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, in which case, I'll speak to you soon.
I will speak to you soon. Good design work, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. I'll speak. Bye. I love you lots. Bye.
Bye. It's Marshall Ward Fair. It's Marshall Ward Fair. It's Marshall Ward Fair. It's Marshall Ward.